In this lesson, we're going to be talking about DOM ready and what that means. That's a really common term that you're going to hear in jQuery world. So let's kind of explain that. Real quick, I created a dom.js file where we have those three main objects, and you can mess with that. And if you remember from the last lesson, I did document.head to kind of illustrate the document object that's created, and I refreshed the page and it worked. It was cool. It was a good demo. But then I went and I did body and it showed up null, and I was a little confused as I was doing it because I didn't realize what I did. But then I came down here and did document.body. It worked. Why was that? And that's because I apologize, but I got ahead of myself and I moved my JavaScript to my head for this lesson. And if I would move this down here to the bottom, this is actually a perfect example of why we put it at the bottom and goes into DOM ready. And now I would rerun this code. It's not null, it works. Now, why is that? And this is because the DOM wasn't ready. So if I move up here and I put this code back, now let's kind of explain what's going on here. And I'm going to do that by viewing the source. Remember, we're using interchangeably the word HTML and DOM for easiness purposes, but when your page loads, your HTML is loading byte by byte, line by line. So before this byte loads, this byte needs to load. And it doesn't just all happen at once. So line by line, byte by byte. Now, when we have JavaScript here at the top, it's loading line by line, byte by byte, and power.js was running, but the body didn't exist yet because the DOM wasn't ready. So it's loading. So this script got put in the page, and then it tried to call document.body, but it didn't exist yet. The DOM is only ready when the last piece of HTML is loaded. Now, so what jQuery does, to keep going on this, so what jQuery does is provides us a method for waiting for the document to be ready. So now, if I would do, or console log document.body, my HTML or my power.js is still in the head. So this is going to run before the body exists. But fortunately, we're calling, and this looks real similar to all those other jQuery things we were doing, $, and instead of a selector, we're passing that document object, and then we're using a ready function, or that ready helper. And now, even though it's in the head here, refresh the page, and it works. If I get rid of it, refresh the page, it's null. So it's waiting for the HTML to be completed before it runs the JavaScript, which is really nice way of assuring that our entire page is available for us to mess with JavaScript. Now, you can do DOM ready and put your JavaScript at the top. There's arguments to put your JavaScript in the footer for performance reasons. And I'm just going to say, as you're starting out, just do this. Don't try to overthink it. Just put all your JavaScript in a document ready function at the very bottom. It's just the safest way you can execute all your code, and you just know you're going to run into less issues. And I don't really write out this full document ready. Like, this is really easy to be able to read for all the walkthroughs that we've been doing as we've dissected jQuery. But jQuery provides a shorthand trick for this, which is this $sign function. And it's the exact same thing as DOM ready. I'm going to leave both these here, and we'll probably put this in a note file later. Now, what I want to do is another demo where we change the background of the body to red. Or let's do blue. Let's mix it up. And I'm not passing an object. I'm doing shorthand CSS trick. This is all in the docs. We'll cover this a little bit more later. But all I'm doing is saying, hey, on DOM ready, or when the last bit of HTML loads, Let's turn the background blue. Refresh the page, it turns blue. Pretty cool, pretty easy. Now, there's a difference though between the last thing of HTML being loaded, or the last byte of HTML being loaded, and the actual image being loaded. So for terminology, probably shouldn't say when the last thing is loaded, but when the DOM is ready or the HTML is ready versus the page is loaded. And let me explain what that means. Let's say we have this image here. We're going byte by byte, line by line. This HTML is ready. It's going to attempt to download this image. However, what if that took like 10 minutes to download? That was like the biggest image in the world for some reason you're putting on your page. Well, this isn't gonna, the HTML document's not waiting for that image to download before it tries to complete the rest of the HTML. So what's actually happening here is as it loads, it's gonna try to download these assets as soon as it's ready. And what ends up happening is before the DOM's even ready, it's starting to download different assets throughout the page, which is nice for performance reasons and ideal. However, that makes things kind of difficult to debug. So what you need to do is, and I think let me just copy paste as a good way to speed this up. So just like we had, we're passing the document object to jQuery and saying, when you're ready, run code. We're now passing the window object and we're saying, when you're loaded, run additional code. And to illustrate this even more, what we'll do is we'll slow down our load times by just adding a bunch of images. And let's just add a bunch of placeholder images that are larger. So when I refresh the page here, there's going to be like 6 extra images here that are going to take maybe like a second to 5 seconds to download. And then we're going to run our code. So the steps, you should be able to figure this out. And I'm going to reiterate one more time. The document's going to go line by line. When it gets to these individual things, it's going to try to download them to kind of speed up page performance. And once it gets to the last HTML, the DOM is ready. We're going to change our background from white to blue. And then once these last images or assets on the page are actually loaded and the page is 100% downloaded, we'll change the background to yellow. So I'll refresh this. It will go white, blue, yellow, probably in like 1 to 3 seconds. White, blue, yellow. Pretty neat. And you can kind of see how the flow works. This is really important to know the difference, not just because you'll run into issues you can't figure out why you can't log console.document body, or you can't change the body color. This is important because this image, if it was still downloading, it doesn't have a height yet. So if you would do something like if you would try to get the height of this image, it would say 0 pixels because it's not loaded yet. We don't actually know the height of the image. After loaded, it would have a height of whatever it is, 300 pixels. And that's going to be important when you're kind of manipulating, going into a more advanced jQuery. But I hope by the end of this lesson now you understand the difference between the two. I'm going to save these and kind of jump over to our next lesson.